Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're so happy to have with us here today the director and subject of a wonderful documentary, which is about to unleash itself upon the world. Maris Curran and Jeannette Feliciano. Say hola to everybody out there.
Hola. Hola.
That's what I like to hear. All right, so this documentary focuses on you, Jeannette, and your life and the struggles that you dealt with following a very traumatic event. You were a part of the Pulse shooting that happened quite a few years ago, unnecessarily, of course. Uh, it was very, very interesting to see you use getting yourself in better shape as a form of release to show a face that's very different from anything that we've seen as far as being the face of that shooting and a survivor. So I have to commend you for being so strong. And what is that like to be followed by a camera to tell your story?
Um, that part is, if it's something you've never done, which it was something I've never done, that's something that's difficult in a sense of, it's because of the fact that I'm a very private person and a very protective person. So that's not something that came off easy, and it's not like it happened from, one day to the next. A relationship had to be developed. When all this stuff came about, it was after I was doing a Love Has No Labels campaign, and I met Maris through there, and me and Maris started to converse. Now, granted, at the time, of course, I was still very apprehensive. I was part of the Pulse nightclub shooting, and for me to have trust in anyone was very difficult. Me being a Hispanic woman and a white woman wanting to ask me questions about certain things that had happened in my life was a little bit, difficult. But Maris knew how to, in a sense, break down the walls, and she simply did that because I no longer looked at her as a white woman at face value. Instead, I got to see her as a human being, and we come from similar backgrounds. We've experienced similar traumas. So that relationship had to develop first in order for, to have something like this, going. She also knew, to respect certain boundaries. She knew how to stay back and, allow me to live my life. And, if whenever I needed that break to say, hold on, this is something I can't do right now, she had all the respect in the world to just say, okay, let me just step back. So yeah, that was from my perspective.
I love that. And why was this the story that needed to be told, Maris?
I mean, I think that I was interested in telling the story of the afterlife, which is, I think, the place that we live in too much, right? We see the news, we see the headlines, but what happens after that? How do you feel safe again? How does Jeannette help Anthony, her son, feel safe? I think that it's really important that we're kind of exploring that realm. And I think that also we need examples of resilience more than ever. And Jeannette inspires me. I think that Jeannette is a leader in her community. But Jeannette also, as you see in this film, kind of her answer of how do you feel safe again is also learning to lean on her community and her beautiful community that open their arms to her to also help her heal. And I think part of that healing process is also making this film and putting it out as an offering to other people to say, how can Jeannette and I together also ignite that sense of healing to our audiences?
I love that. That's the reason I'm wearing this shirt today, is in solidarity with my culture, Salvadorians. That's what this is. And
Yeah, let's
so
go.
you know what it is. And so it's nice to see, someone of similar background that struggles. And some of the most interesting parts of this film are you with your family, the discussion with your mother who doesn't quite understand how insensitive it is to be sensitive to your queerness. Do you know what I mean? The discussions with your son were some of my favorite scenes in the movie. My favorite scene in the movie is following a really positive thing that happens to you. There's cake and everything backstage, and it just made me laughed because it was a moment of pure joy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love those little moments. Can you describe just seeing yourself in those moments and knowing like I got to feel that joy and now the audience gets to feel it with me?
Mhm. Yeah, there's those intimate moments are, who I am truly. A lot of times people don't get to see that. They see me as a strong woman, as a leader, as somebody who works out, and sometimes you put somebody in that position that you don't realize how human they are. Even Superman has kryptonite, right? So I think that those moments were important to the film because there's so many different aspects that highlights the highs and lows. You could even visibly see it, my face of stress, and through the film, you kind of see that sense of healing as well. My son is, I'm already teary-eyed because you bring up my son, and everyone knows how I am when it comes to him. Even though he's about to be 22 this week, he's still my baby. Those moments of making sure that I'm creating an environment for him that I didn't have, one that he's always going to get that guidance. Because once again, it creates a sense of softness and who I truly am. I'm really like a marshmallow inside. I may be physically strong, but those moments, believe it or not, it allows us to see how human we really are.
And I
I
think that
completely
that's
agree.
also an interesting element of the film, that there's so much about motherhood in the film, right? You brought up the relationship with her mom, with Jeanette's mom, and also the ways that you see unconventional mothering, right? You see Jeanette teaching Anthony how to box, right? You see Jeanette teaching Anthony about gun safety. You see Jeanette making sure that he knows how to wash a car, right? And these are all incredibly loving acts. And I think that we need as many examples of that as we can out in the world.
You also see her breaking up a fight between two grown men who can't stop acting like children. So that's also another good example of it. So yeah, you're totally correct. There's a lot of mothering going on there. So well done there. Well, the most mothering was when you were, full pose, mothering all over the place, ready to go, right? Like that's the biggest part. Now, whenever I have a guest in front of me, I always like to ask them two questions. They're very simple. They don't require much thought because it's going to be first thing that comes off top of your head. And this is for both of you. Who are some people that inspire you, whether that be in your personal or professional life?
For me personally, my son is one of my biggest inspirations. And the reason why I consider him my inspiration is because, for me, it is the power of molding him into an amazing human being. So, and I think that you can see that through the film, is being able to give him an opportunity that he has a loving mother to create balance for him, because I think that every child needs that. I felt that I needed that. So I would definitely say he is and continues to be my biggest inspiration.
I love that. That's the best answer.
And Jeanette inspires me. I think that she inspired me to make this film. And I think that we all need a dose of Jeanette in our lives. And I'm so happy that we're able to provide them.
I would completely agree. We all need a little dose of Jeanette in our life. Somebody who can just smack us in the head and tell us we're doing something that we shouldn't be doing. That's just standard Latina motherhood right there.
Right, you know it.
Pegazos, yeah. I'm like, ah.
Sí, claro que sí. O si no, o cocotazo. That's how it is in Puerto Rico, un cocotazo.
Nah. We have our chanclas firmly in hand. Right across the head. So true. The next one's pretty easy. If you guys had two films that you could watch for the rest of your life, what two would you pick and why?
Oh, that one's difficult for me.
Very hard. Yeah, it's hard for everybody. That's why I ask it, because it's just so fun to get what's the first two off the top of your head.
I think it's gonna be The Child in Me. Okay.
Yeah.
It would be The Never Ending Story.
Great one.
The Never Ending Story, and believe it or not, another child one is gonna have to be Aladdin. And the only reason I say that is because growing up, I didn't see enough Latinos. So for me, Aladdin was as Spanish looking as it can get.
Yeah, yeah. Then they finally put out some movies with brown people in it. So yeah.
Exactly.
So I get that. And then what about you, Maris?
Oh, that's a very hard question. I mean, Thelma and Louise came to mind just because we're thinking about badass women jumping off cliffs in a way. And 35 Shots of Rome, the Claire Denis film, which I think is also another film about parenthood that is beautiful and about kind of living in the everyday and everyday struggles.
That is a gorgeous pick. I like that. Now I have to ask you, because this thing's been floating around since 2022 when it debuted at San Francisco. What took so dang long?
The industry is clunky right now, so we've been trying to get it ready, get it out, and we have a great opportunity to do that. And we're so happy that, I think we're in a really tough moment right now where people really need hope and they really need to come together and they really need conversation and they really need inspiration. And we wish it hadn't taken so long, but maybe this is the perfect moment for people to meet Jeannette and watch the film.
Sometimes you don't need the right time. Sometimes you just need some time, and I'm glad that it came out sometime, because this is something that needs to be seen. It's a great documentary. I love how personal everything feels, because that's really hard to do. Sometimes people can feel like caricatures of themselves during documentaries, and you did a great job, Maris, of giving us puro vida. You gave us her pure life, just on screen, and that's really vulnerable, and it was really nice to see and very touching. So I commend you for that. Is there anything that either one of you want to leave the audience before we let you go?
I would say that it's streaming, but watch the film with somebody if you can. Have a conversation after. Share it, because it's really a film that the joy of us being together right now and doing some screenings is also kind of having community time and being able to talk about healing. So as much as you can do that with another person, it makes a difference.
I love that. Jeannette?
What I would definitely say is don't be afraid to feel. Don't be afraid to express emotion. Allow ourselves to heal through our trauma, through community, through communication, and most importantly, by being open and showing love to one another as we're going through our traumas and trials and tribulations. So express love.
I love that. And at the end of the day, just let her eat cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me some cake. Let me get some Nutella on that.
The Nutella on top.
Yeah, sometimes we all just need some Nutella and cake. Thank you so much, ladies. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, okay?
Thank you so much. You too. Bye-bye.